we get set for our next session, which is a very, very fantastic conversation with what's next for HR. We have with us Mr. Rajiv Kumar, Vice President and Country Leader, India, Sum Total. And may I also welcome Dr. Swati Sarangi, Global Head, Learning, Leadership and Organization, Dr. Reddy's Laboratories. A very warm welcome to both of y'all.
Very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. A warm welcome to this session. It's my honor and privilege to share this session with Swati. So Swati, I think we've been talking about pandemic, we've been talking about what happened, what changed. Possibly take a different perspective today, and let's possibly see that towards the end of the session, are we able to possibly come back and say, how does HR need to behave very differently? The thing that changed was everybody started reacting, and the first priority for all the HR leaders was to ensure business continuity, to make sure that people are equipped to work from wherever they are. And then came the emotional quotient, which is, okay, while we're pushing employees to work, are we taking care of their emotions? So after the emotional quotient, yes, then again, and I'm sure with your second hat of being a global CLO of Dr. Reddy's, the third priority came was, are we building enough skills and competencies to ensure that the employees are productive? But while all this was happening, there was something drastically different happening in the marketplace. The businesses were behaving differently. The consumers were behaving very differently. So what, in my opinion, what would have taken almost a decade to change happened in 10 months, which is, look at a B-class city. Every single vendor out there became so comfortable with online banking. Look at children. They were never exposed, while all the parents were kind of behind them not to use gadgets. But look at 10 months, everybody is kind of fold, and while they're not liking it, but they're doing online education. India did not get impacted so much with pandemic. I think we managed it pretty well. So there's going to be a huge growth that I personally feel is going to come in machinery, in industrial manufacturing, in healthcare, in education. So what do you think would be HR's role when we look at possibly preparing a talent which can handle this kind of economy and this kind of growth in coming future? Let's not talk about pandemic. Let's talk about 5 years from now. What do you think would be HR's role in building a high performance, talented workforce?
So, Rajiv, a very interesting conversation that we are having, because when we look at the backdrop of what happened during the pandemic and what's happening now and what will happen in future, two things that come to my mind is that the necessity of surviving and thriving is going to be very, very key. Because ultimately, it's about how do you up your game and how are you coping with the changes that are happening in a very proactive manner. And in all this that's happening, I think HR has a very significant role to play. Not that it wasn't significant earlier, but in the times to come, I see that significance increasing in certain areas. And then I'll come to the talent bit that you just spoke about. So the HR's role that I see, in which areas the prominence is really going to be high, and the business is going to lean on us for us to provide solutions or greater contribution, are three things. One is the structure part of it. So when I say structure, it's organizational design and structure. See, look at the way the work is being organized today. It has to be far more networked, far more agile, so that when people are working in the workspaces, because they're going to be dispersed, they're probably going to be needing to be more customer centric, because as you just now spoke, so much has got disrupted. Businesses which are existing have either gotten into adjacencies, or those which were brick and mortar kind of organization, they have gotten into services, backward integration, forward integration. There's so much at play happening there in the business landscape that the structures have to be far more agile and networked. So HR has to come out with structures which are more enabling to suit and help the business needs. Second, they will also have to provide what I would say capability or the talent part, which you just spoke. And in that space, it's more about having a talent which is future ready. So, which means that are you keeping your talent force ready for now and even for the future, which you don't know? So, know what will behold, and you're there ready to take the business ahead. So, investing in the skills which would really take the businesses, in that upward movement is very key. So L&D professionals, HR professionals need to think ahead of time, So you'll have to look at maybe the digital skills, the data skills, and even deeper skills. I would say at Dr. Reddy's, for instance, we are focusing on making our people more ambidextrous. And when we say ambidextrous, they should be able to grapple with multiple complexities and at ease at the same time. So for us, we are focusing on innovation and execution excellence, which has to be together there in talent. Very key. The third thing which I think the HR will need to provide for by way of contribution in a more pronounced manner is the culture piece, the culture building. The culture building is something which is a business agenda. But, as Peter Drucker had said, that culture eats strategy for breakfast. I would say culture eats strategy for breakfast, dinner, and lunch, everything. So it is really key that the HR folks who are closest to people are able to provide that architect, and they're also acting like custodians of culture.
Yeah.
I mean, these are the few things that really come to my mind at this point in time.
I think it's a good start of this conversation, Swati. One point, so we have 1,000 people in India. And when all this was happening, we said, okay, so I managed P&L for India, and I was saying that, okay, and I had certain expectations from my HR people, right?
Yeah.
So when I went to my HR head, my expectation was only one, and this is possibly I'm taking a business hat and expressing that point, which is saying that, do you really understand my business? Yes, you have been hiring the right people. Yeah. What would be my business like 5 years from now? So it is equally important because you are building the workforce. You are getting the team ready for the future.
Agree.
How inclusive are you into my business? How much do you understand from a business?
Yeah.
What is your take on picking up the best practices from marketing, picking up the best practices from sales, from operations, and how are we able to get them aligned to the HR function so the HR becomes more effective?
Yeah. So talking about this, I think you very aptly put it, so the immersion in business or the business acumen has to be very foundational and very strategic at the same time. Foundational because, they have to know the nuances, the basics, which really matter and make the bucks coming to the business. Second, it has to be strategic, which means very forward-looking and preparing the business almost at the pace of the growth of business. So, you have to prepare it at that pace. So, which means that your immersion in the business landscape has to be high. See, HR also, many times we fall back on this credibility quotient because people think that, we understand the business, but are not really able to provide solutions. I would say when we operate from an entrepreneurial mindset, and start running HR as if we were running a business, we would be able to add greater value. Can we really add greater value in the function and, contribute to the organization at every stage of the value chain? And since you talked about what we can draw from others, like you mentioned about marketing, I would say just see how HR has interestingly evolved. Like, for example, today, we do a lot of branding, which actually has, come from marketing. So branding for whom? Branding the organization, the employee value proposition, making it purposeful as an organization. What we take from finance could be like, looking at these return on investments and how you can add greater value in all that you're investing and wanting to derive benefit and value from. And third, also look at the supply chain. We are also trying to look at, how we can seamlessly have processes which are faster, smarter, better for the organizational needs. So HR as a function has to be more systemic in orientation, more strategic in appeal, and has to work in a way that it is truly a value-adding function. We have to be accelerators for business, and which means that we can't say that, we are helping business or we are co-pilots. We have to accelerate business. And that is truly going to be the new HR.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is the first time I've heard somebody, an HR leader, saying that we have to become entrepreneurs. So HR being an entrepreneur is something which is, I think, the first time that I'm hearing it. Very interesting thought. The other interesting thought that you talked about was ROI, right? So
Yeah.
in last 1 year, whenever I met, especially for new business, whenever I go to a new CHRO or a new CLO, I think suddenly the conversation has changed, which is conversation has started talking of, they have been talking about ROI and talking about analytics. So it's while the rest of the solution is fine, tell me how do I get ROI?
Yeah.
Because there's so much of pressure that I have on budget because spending on HR is not the top priority, right? And therefore there's a huge focus on ROI. And I think HR working in close collaboration with finance could be the game changer.
Yeah.
Another interesting topic that I would want to pick up here is, see, marketing is always known as brand custodians, right? What possibly stitch all of this together is the culture,
Yes.
right? The way a Dr. Reddy's is known for a particular culture, or some other organization is known for a particular culture, or Sum Total is known for a particular culture. I think it is HR which plays a very, very significant role. And I would actually want to call them as culture custodians, right? Because a business can change, but the culture that you build and you sustain and also you communicate possibly becomes an integral part of your growth. So when I talk about culture building, there are possibly three things that we look at. One is, how do my employees react to that culture? Are they able to imbibe that culture and communicate externally? Second is, how do I look at what the larger marketplace looks at us? And third is the extended enterprise, which is all the for example, delivery agents or people, the blue-collar employees. How do they deal with your organization? So culture becomes core. So what is your take on how HR leaders need to look at culture when they're ensuring that the entire unit, which is your employees and blue-collared, are together to take your business to the next level?
Right. I think you said some things which I absolutely endorse and agree. So culture custodians, you said, I think we, the HR folks, are really the culture custodians. We're also going to play the role of culture architect. While culture is an agenda which is all pervasive, which means that it cuts across functions and it is a business agenda. The architects of cultural, that particular role is also key, because you're also trying to put together which is that enabling culture comprising of credo and values that will help augment the organization during good and bad times. What is the glue that can really hold the people together? So defining of it is also very key, and culture there gets translated in various ways. I mean, there are underlying assumptions that people have, certain norms which are not written down anywhere, but practices that are followed. What are the behaviors and emotions that people bring to work? Because ultimately, everybody is living the culture. It's like the foundation of the entire organization. I would just give you an example and explain more about it. Like here in Dr. Reddy's, we have our culture is encapsulated by leadership behaviors called ASPIRE. It's an acronym, it gets expanded. I'll just take one of them. Like, for example, A stands for aspirational growth mindset. So what we've done is we've tried to say that if A stands for aspirational growth mindset, right from the top to the, down the line, everybody needs to contextualize what it means. So for us, it means three things. Like, can you understand the big picture? Are you really, optimizing all your resources and looking at costs in a very prudent-like manner? And third, are you also taking the risks that are required to make things happen? So this is aspirational growth mindset for us. But how it will play out for a person at the shop floor, to a person who is selling medicines, or to a leader who is deciding will be different. But nonetheless, every person has to internalize it and practice it. So HR has to prepare people to understand what it is, and also give them that ecosystem where they can practice these cultural behaviors that make the organization, embody them in lettered and also in spirit. I think HR there becomes the culture custodian, as you are rightly trying to say. And when we talk about the culture, it is not an effort which is because of the pandemic or something which has to be reactive. It has to always be there, and that role is so critical that if HR guys, I mean, if we take this particular role very seriously, we can really contribute to strategy realization. Just to give you an example, when we are looking at this Aspire leadership credo and behaviors, we always make a case for it and say, how can we contextualize Aspire in the business or the context that you're in and help accomplish your goals? For example, if you want to up your game in a certain territory or you want to change the way you're doing business, which tenet of Aspire can help you and how? So, we always try to establish the strong linkage between culture and business. So that culture is not seen like something which is outside of business. It is in the flow of work. So doing that, and I think HR, we are so blessed, I would say. We have a role to play in something which is so critical in the organization. So we are really playing like the bedrock kind of a role here. And we should take it very seriously.
I think HR function has to start taking acknowledgement while organization is acknowledging their effort. I think it's equally important for HR also to feel empowered and start acknowledging themselves for what they're doing.
Yeah.
When we talk about culture, I think one important point that you spoke about was context. Right? Today, possibly everybody says that technology is the solution of everything. As long as I have a strong team and I have the right culture and certainly I have the power of the right technology, things will happen. There you picked up a very important point, which is a context, which is what is in it for me at every level in the organization. While obviously leadership team is always inclusive in the way forward, I think every person needs to understand the context, as in what is in it for me. So for example, if there's a technology in my organization, do I have to imbibe the technology? Or does the technology gets addicted to me, which is, if I talk about AI, ML, or whatever that exists today, why can't technology get addicted to a person? Wherein that person has a context, technology understands the context and delivers everything. While everything is happening, there has to be drastic changes that has to happen. Because if you have to prepare the workforce for tomorrow, obviously changes have to happen. And when we talk about organization behavior, there are two things that come to my mind is drivers of communication or drivers of change, and barriers to change.
Yeah.
Right. So both come together, right? So while there could be 100 drivers for change, which is business growth, change of economy, change of marketplace, customer demands. What do you think could be some of the barriers to this change? And as a HR leader, what would be your suggestion to overcome these barriers?
I think it's a very interesting paradox, isn't it? Everybody wants the change to happen, but doesn't want to be impacted in a way which is very adverse. Because we are so used to doing things in a way which becomes a comfortable way. So the moment you push people out of their comfort zones, there is a slight resistance to it. So HR leaders, we have to understand that change is an agenda which is going to be always key for us. How do we make it happen? So from the thinking or the planning to the action stage and to the sustenance stage, is HR's role there all through? I would say yes. Like, for example, how do you create a burning platform? Because, when change has to happen, everybody has to get excited about it. So as you rightly said, that communicating that agenda in a way that people get excited. So for example, people want to change when it touches them, it touches their lives. So can you link it to their own personal purpose and vision? Like everybody has an ikigai. Can you link it to the ikigai of the self and the purpose of the organization?
Agree.
Then they say, okay, there is something in it for me which is going to really be there and helpful. Second is, when the change is happening, orchestrating it in a way that HR people have to play the role of evangelists and activists. They have to tie everything together in a very collaborative, synergistic manner, ensuring that there is symphony. So doing that is easier said than done. It's not like something which happens, because everybody, when you see functions will be there, If it's a larger organization or a conglomerate, you will have different views who will also be thinking and having perspectives of their own. So how do you put everything together in a nice medley? That role is also a role of HR. And then when the change is happening, apart from ensuring by providing enabling structures, processes, etc., you need to also sustain the change. So can we put in mechanisms which will make that new change habit, like a habit which is, transforming to the new ways. So can we reinforce the right behaviors, have the right recognitions and platforms provided, so that the change from the old state to the new state is happening in a seamless and in a manner that sticks for the organization. So planning that entire storyline in a manner which will help, and also being aware of the context which you spoke about. Because see, the context is a very evolving one. What is the context today may not be a context tomorrow. So we will really need to feel the pulse of the people, pulse of the organization, understand what are the trends happening outside. Because what's happening outside is also going to impact the inside. The business landscape is also there. So the confluence between business, which is strategy orientation, the culture, which is more of a people piece, and the action orientation, which is a real change happening. These three pieces, have to be, we can't lose our sight from anything. In all that, where hindrances can come about, I think hindrances can come about when people resist it, when there are biases that are there. For example, in today's workforce, we need to be very inclusive. We will have people from all strands and all stratas who are there in the workforce. Are we providing them space to grow and feel safe? For example, you could have people from different generations working together. Let's celebrate the diversity of thoughts that they bring about, or gender diversity could also be there. So I'm just saying that change happens in a context. Making sure that we are attuned to the context and also leveraging it.
And communicating
these roles and communicating it in a way that makes the change very purposeful is what will be the differentiator. So coming back, Rajiv, again to the role that you were saying, see, all of it is linked a lot to the way we communicate, the way we hold people together. So the people aspect of culture and the people aspect of the organization, the people aspect of business is something which will still be very HR and important. The other parts will, of course, need to be blended in a way that makes it stronger as a force.
Yeah. So in the interest of time, Swati, possibly one last question that I have, and I'll request you to summarize that, is that whatever we have spoken in last 15 odd minutes is about what business expects from HR leaders, how HR leaders need to transform their businesses, their approach, control the messaging, control the communication, manage the culture. There was a point that you highlighted in the beginning, which is being an entrepreneur, right? In all of this, we have forgotten how does an HR professional build his or her own skills and competencies to become more effective. So I will request your views on that, and then I'll request you to summarize as well.
Sure. I think we've had a very interesting discussion dwelling on different aspects of HR, which is what is HR supposed to do? Now, if we look at what are the competencies that HR professionals need to exude and demonstrate, and how as a function we need to be really strong, I think we need to be very authentic, the two A's, A squared, so authentic and agile at the same time. Authentic because the empathy, the humility, the people connection, all this is something which is not negotiable. It's very important. Second part is we need to be agile because business is changing and the expectation from us is that we have to do things in the flow. So that is there. Now, apart from these two, I mean, these are the two competencies, the new age competencies such as having a design thinking mindset. Whenever we are designing HR interventions, can we really think like a designer? And also, looking at the data kind of a mindset. Whenever we are trying to do, looking at trends, patterns, not just for the current, but also in a predictive way for the business, can be a role that we can take up more seriously. And in doing all this, we have to keep in mind that as HR professionals, we have to be very, very extremely value added in the way we look at. So entrepreneur, who is an entrepreneur? Somebody who creates value, somebody who takes risks, somebody who is innovative and somebody who has a lot of resilience and growth mindset. So the times are not going to be, every time is not going to be the same time. In fact, for HR guys, we get more brick pads than we get the flowers. So be resilient, be strong, and think of possibilities and a lot of growth opportunities that the business or the other functions are also, making us get by way of new ways to do our function differently. So this is the way I'd like to put it. So the future of HR is really bright, and we can be true value adders to business and people by having a focus which is strategic in appeal and keeping our execution also very grounded and extolling these values of empathy, humility, which are people-centered, and keeping that agility in us alive all the time, the spark in us to do things faster alive all the time.
Wonderful. Thanks, Swati.
Thank you. Thank you, Rajiv.